who he was as a creator. His quotes capture his philosophy, that comedy can make us laugh while also making us think. That mix is what turned him into one of the most influential voices in entertainment. What sets Brooks apart from other comedians is that he never aimed for safe, predictable humor. He thrived on pushing boundaries, always flirting with taboo subjects in a way that somehow felt less offensive and more enlightening. He had a gift for balancing shock value with cleverness. It's one thing to be outrageous. It's another thing to be outrageous and intelligent, to craft a joke that sticks with you long after the laughter fades. Brooks knew that comedy was a way to challenge power, expose hypocrisy, and make audiences reflect, all while entertaining them. Think about the era in which Brooks rose to fame. Comedy in the 1960s and 1970s was a battleground for new ideas. The world was changing fast. Civil rights, political unrest, cultural revolutions. Brooks stepped into that chaos and used humor as his weapon. With fearless satire, he reminded audiences that laughter could be the most powerful response to fear, injustice, and even despair. His quotes and films weren't just escapism. They were a reminder that sometimes laughing at something is the best way to understand it. Another remarkable trait about Mel Brooks is how universal his humor feels. While he often drew on Jewish culture and heritage, his comedic touch reached far beyond any single community. He tapped into human nature itself, our ego, our insecurities, our contradictions. That's why people from all walks of life connected with him. Whether you were in New York City, Los Angeles, or a small town in the Midwest, Brooks' lines had the power to hit home. His wit was local and global at the same time, specific yet universal. It's also worth highlighting how Brooks wasn't just a filmmaker or a comic genius. He was a collaborator. He loved working with other talented performers, writers, and actors, feeding off their energy to elevate his work. Comedy, in his view, was never a solitary act. It was a shared experience, something that grew in the presence of others. This attitude shows in his quotes too, which often celebrate the joy of working together and finding laughter in connection with others. That perspective made his comedy feel less like a monologue and more like a conversation with the world. In an age where comedy often risks becoming sanitized or overly cautious, Brooks' unapologetic style stands out even more. His quotes remind us of the value of boldness in art. While he always believed in laughter, he also believed in honesty. Sometimes, honesty meant being outrageous, pointing out truths that others might find uncomfortable. His gift was making those uncomfortable truths feel accessible. Because when you laughed at them, you recognized something real about the human condition. Brooks also understood that comedy isn't just about making fun of others. It's about shining a light on ourselves. Many of his funniest moments come from poking fun at human vanity, foolishness, and the endless ways we trip over our own egos. His quotes reflect this self-awareness. They remind us not to take ourselves too seriously, to recognize our flaws, and to laugh at them instead of being crushed by them. That balance of humility and humor is part of why his legacy endures. If you take a step back and look at Brooks' career as a whole, what emerges is a portrait of a man who believed laughter was essential to survival. His work came out of tough times, out of the awareness that the world can be cruel and absurd. And yet, instead of letting that destroy him, he transformed it into comedy. His quotes often blend cynicism with optimism, showing a worldview that acknowledges pain but insists on joy. That duality, darkness mixed with light, is what makes him timeless. What's fascinating is how Brooks managed to stay relevant across generations. Comedy that lands in one era doesn't always survive in another. But his approach, mixing satire with slapstick and sharp wit with absurdity, continues to resonate. His quotes still circulate online, still get shared in conversations, and still feel as fresh as they did decades ago. That's the hallmark of true comedic genius. The ability to speak across time, to connect with audiences no matter when or where they encounter. Air your work. Air your work. At the heart of Mel Brooks' comedic philosophy is freedom. The freedom to laugh, the freedom to question, the freedom to take nothing too seriously. His quotes reflect this belief over and over. They aren't just jokes. They're reminders that comedy is one of the most liberating forces in human life. By laughing, we break chains. By joking, we take control of situations that might otherwise overwhelm us. Brooks knew this, and it's why his humor feels not just entertaining, but empowering. So as we reflect on his quotes and his legacy, the lesson is clear. Mel Brooks wasn't just here to make us laugh. He was here to teach us about resilience, perspective, and the beauty of not taking the world or ourselves too seriously. His comedic gifts live on not just in the films he made, but in the words he left behind. And if there's one thing his quotes tell us, it's that laughter will always be one of humanity's greatest tools for survival. Picture this. A man walks onto a stage, cracks a joke, and in one sentence, manages to turn the ordinary into the extraordinary. That man is Mel Brooks, a legend of comedy whose career has spanned decades, reshaping what we think of as humor. If you've ever laughed at a parody, been shocked by a satirical jab, or marveled at a fearless joke that pushed the boundaries of taste yet made a point, you've likely felt Mel Brooks' influence. He's more than a filmmaker. He's a cultural institution. Today, we're diving into his comedic gifts and the kind of quotes that show just how brilliant he really is. When you think of Mel Brooks, you might remember movies like The Producers or Blazing Saddles. These weren't just funny films. They were seismic cultural events. Brooks had a rare ability to take risks, to poke fun at sacred cows, and to use laughter as a tool for exposing absurdity. But beyond the films, his words, his one-liners, his musings, and his outrageous quips tell us everything about